You said something really profound just now, right? You said it's good to be early, but the real question is how early. Because you got into React, you mentioned you went to React Conf. That was 2016. React was introduced to the world, was open sourced in 2013. So there was 3 years of like latency. What I see with Apple is that everybody says they're late to the party. Literally, like you can now, as of iOS 18, that's dropping in the fall, only now can you customize your home screen to the point where you can have like your icons anywhere along a grid. They don't have to follow an order. This feature has existed for literal decades in Android, and so a lot of folks go like, "Oh, Apple's now getting into AI with Apple Intelligence." They literally rebranded the AI acronym to Apple Intelligence, but this is really 2.5, maybe 3 years after ChatGPT sort of revolutionized everything. So again, just like you, I'm drawing a parallel here between your latency to React of 3 years and Apple's latency to AI being close to 3 years, if not 3 years. Is there a pattern here, or am I just inventing things? Do you think that's sort of an ideal buffer to wait to invest and just monitor until you do?
The traditional answer in our world is it depends, right? Everything's going to be different, in terms of like, well, what's the supply demand curve, right? And I think that's where the balance happens. Like, yeah, 2013 React was open source, but 2014 and 2015 is really like, was just like this crazy hockey stick curve of growth and adoption. And so we kind of hit that growth curve right at that point. So, that's where, Apple is intelligent when it comes to picking the times where they think the demand is going to be ready. And also the things behind the scenes is their execution going to be good enough to produce a product that people really want and know they want? Or, right? And like all of this consciousness has to happen while the technology and the behind the scenes has to be good enough. So look at Vlad at Webflow, his trajectory, with building Webflow. The technology to build Webflow and how it is today wasn't really around when he had the idea in 2004. Yes, there was webs.com and some early other competitors, right? But like by the time he started at maybe 2012, 2014, he had been rejected from YC a couple times. It was the third or fourth time that he got in, but also the JavaScript world was changing to the point where it almost be possible to execute in a much better way, where you can actually build amazing stuff with Webflow, right? You can look at the same thing with what we're doing, what Vercel's doing with V0, what you can do with Claude, with Shad CN, like all these competing things, but it's when you can really type a prompt, and really get a front end that you're like gonna run with, not just prototype with, which, we're getting so close, that's like that it's just going to, explode. And we're like just before that. So yeah, timing the market. I don't know what the timing is, but there's so many of those interesting factors.
Yeah.
I was but you see the same patterns happening. So it's less about figuring out the timing and more about the pattern matching. The pattern matching that I see in all of these spaces, and you'll start to see it if you've seen one of these, because I saw it 8 years ago in the React kind of like the shift, right? Well, the first thing you see is you see some of the same early adopters, they move over. So Natter was one of those examples. Like Natter
Yeah.
like moved to Web3 like very early in the process, and now he's predominantly a Web3 person, name, ecosystem person, right? But the same thing's happening in the AI engineering space. One of our MCs at React Miami a few years ago, I saw him at the AI engineering conference. Boom, he's there. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm an AI engineer. What are you building? Hassan, at Vercel,
Oh
he's
yeah.
now a DevRel at that, at Together.ai, Cheng Lu, super early, in the React ecosystem, right? Like he was behind, a whole, movement, right? I still remember some of his talks about, meta level language, right? And he was behind, Reason ML with Jordan Walk, the creator of React, right? Where is he? I saw him there. Was he's at Midjourney, right? Learning. Kevin Van Gundy,
It's
COO
hyper
at
mode.
Vercel. Right, right. He's now in the A. So like all these early people now they come over. So it's first as the people start moving, then you hear similar vibe about just wanting to advance. So like Llamaphile came out, they want to run more, on CPUs than GPUs, for inference, and they came up with a way to do it, right? And they're like, well, there's millions of CPUs out there. Let's try to use those, right? And everyone's like, this is awesome, right? It's like this working together feeling about like this is great. And then there's Grok over here working on the LPU, a chip for inference, and then there's Fireworks working on another solution, and they're all kind of like we don't know where we're gonna be. Nobody can quite read the tea leaves, but they're all excited and like happy for each other all at the same time. So there's a competitive spirit, but there's also a unifying spirit, when I see. So that's the second thing I see. And the third thing you start to see is your just mind gets blown. Like the first time that I said, I think AI is going to change the world was watching Ken Wheeler at the conference that we do, React Miami.
Wow.
And like, it was not like, I've seen this all happening, but Ken, I spent my whole life as a musician. So watching Ken create music that actually was good with suno.com, suno.com. Like I spent my whole life perfecting the ability to play the drums and a few other instruments. And what he was able to create in like the 5 minutes was better than that. And as he called it, it had riz. Like it had like real character. Like, and I kept looking for the artist. I thought it was an artist. I didn't know what it was. He had created it, and then I created some songs at an all hands, for G2I. And I'm like, this, and there's been a few instances after this where I'm like, yes, AI is going to change the world, using V0, using all these prototyping
Yeah.
solutions. You're just mind blown. But so those are the three pieces that I see, is just your mind's exploding over and over and
Yeah.
over again. And when you're kind of seeing the people move, you're seeing, this the mind blowing experiences, and you're seeing the community like move together. That's when you want to be in. So I don't know how many years that is, but that that's
Yeah.
that's the time.
That's so cool. Yeah. So the people move, the community, and then your mind is constantly being blown. I love that. And you said AI is going to change the world. I think to some degree it already has in a pretty profound way, and it's only going to get better. Like I think a lot of people tend to downvalue it because they say, oh, it's just a word prediction machine. But I think what they don't understand is when you can model something in the latent space and then have it transformed and remodeled as output tokens, you literally can you get superpowers.